This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
Yes, it is time for Nuclear Heat here on 93.7 The Ticket, our WWE Week in Review show that we do every week at this time. Thanks for joining, I would say us normally, but just me tonight. My tag team partner, Nuclear Heat contributor, Augie Pena, is out today. He actually went to go watch some Husker basketball, traveled to South Dakota to do so. Of course, the Huskers came up short in basketball court and on the football field this week, but we're all recovering from that. But at least we did have a good week of wrestling. By the way, I will have a new tag team partner today. Just for today, we're going to tag him in. Adam Carricker, a former Husker and NFL defensive lineman who does the Adam Carricker show every day. I should say Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday here on 93.7 The Ticket from noon to 1. If you listen to him, this past summer, him and DP and myself would chat some wrestling every Tuesday. He's a big wrestling fan. In fact, had an opportunity that I want to ask him about to try out for wrestling, after his NFL career. So very interesting stuff. He's caught up on all the latest. So we'll kind of get his thoughts on all that. You will have to excuse me a little bit if you are on the Sartor Heyman Jewelers video stream. I'm going to be looking like Joe Tessitore here does in the Raw, in WWE Raw, when he looks down at his notes quite a bit. That's no shot at Joe Tessitore. He's still getting used to the WWE duties, as if you were, because he still does college football and I believe tennis and all his other sports that he gets into. But still notice he looks at his notes quite a bit. Eventually, hopefully, and it's my hopes. I'm a big Joe Test fan. I've made no bones about that as far as college football goes, but I'm very excited to see him get to the WWE. Hopefully, at some point, he'll know the WWE like the back of his hand, like Michael Cole does, and able to do that. By the way, I've also seen his partner, by the way, Tessitore's partner, Wade Barrett, rumored to maybe go with get back in the ring, we should say, with Drew McIntyre at some point. I don't know if we'll see that, but that's some of the rumors you're starting to see around WWE because they've had a connection in their earlier careers, and so that would be kind of fun. If he does come back, Bad News Barrett would be the act that I'd like him to come back as. But as usual, we go through WWE Raw, WWE SmackDown of the previous week and kind of preview the upcoming week. So we will do that. Again, with Adam, I'm going to kind of go with more larger scale topics of kind of what's going on in WWE. I don't know if he wants to get down to the nitty gritty. Maybe he does. Maybe we'll ask him a few of those too. But of course, the big premium live event upcoming. You have to wait a little bit, but November 30th, Survivor Series War Games is what the current programming is building up to. And it's just kind of dawned on me as I've kind of looked at it. There's a lot of names still kind of set to make returns. We don't have a premium live event, I believe, scheduled for December. They do have Saturday Night Main Event, which they're going to do on Peacock on NBC, I believe, and so maybe that kind of takes place of that. But I guess my point is, with a lot of names that are currently out, the Becky Lynch's, Charlotte Flair's, not seeing CM Punk, John Cena still not yet to set his retirement tour. Logan Paul. I mean, there's just a lot of names. Goldberg's been teased as of recently that maybe we can see come back for that Royal Rumble, which is far down the line. I just say that because those are my favorite types of Royal Rumbles. The last couple of years seems like they've held off on the big returns, and we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of creative directions they can go, but like I said, to keep it focused on Survivor Series, we're starting to kind of get the idea of what War Games will be, both on the men's side and the women's side. And of course, on the men's side, that was a large story of what programming was, both on SmackDown and Raw, is the OG Bloodline trying to find a fifth member for War Games, as the original Bloodline has found their fifth. And again, I'll go through the details of the shows, but just to lead off, we don't have to act like we don't know yet. Bronson Reed has joined the new Bloodline, which was a surprising move. I think they've built him up well with his previous feuds with Seth Rollins. I think looking back now, I do get a little bit frustrated with their booking. With him, he did, he won the Andre. They're trying to kind of push him throughout the year. And they're definitely telling the story of him trying to arrive in the main event, to try to be a key player in WWE. And so they're doing a good job of that. I'm just still frustrated he didn't win that monster match there with Braun Strowman. Because and they had Seth Rollins make his return and curve stopping and all that, but I don't think we've seen Braun Strowman since then. And so it didn't really do anything to put him over. Not that he needed it, at the at the time to begin with. Bronson Reed needs the push more than anything. Again, I get it. They kind of booked that match for Seth Rollins to get his revenge. But since then you had a premium live event match where Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins fought, and Rollins won that one too. To me, just the moment of seeing Bronson Reed in the ring and be that fifth member that the Bloodline is having would have just been a bigger moment if he had been able to pick up a few more victories. Now, that's not without, not saying that he hasn't been red hot, because his tsunami always gets a very big crowd reaction. He's been doing it on chairs, on cars, on anything you can find and put Seth Rollins on. So it still was a big moment. And then when he helped out the new Bloodline take out the OG Bloodline here in the latest episode of SmackDown, which was just Friday. So obviously he makes for a big time fifth opponent, surprising a little bit. And I don't know, it kind of takes a little bit away from the storyline in two senses. One is that he's been in such a feud with Seth Rollins. In fact, he has a match lined up for him on Raw that even though Rollins has already been asked to be the OG Bloodline's fifth member and has denied it, it kind of lines up that maybe that's going to spoil what we're going to see tomorrow on Monday night. By the way, if you want it spoiled, you can already do that because it's a pre-taped thing. If any pre-tapes, I try to stay off Twitter, not try to see. So we're definitely taking this show from the standpoint of we do not know yet, because I do not know, and maybe it is spoiled for tomorrow night's Monday Night Raw. But I'll wait and see, like most of the WWE universe. But it kind of spoiled it in that way. In my mind, is that you're going to be maybe less of a surprise. The other thing is Bronson Reed, though Samoan, is not a family member, and isn't that? And I know, the OG Bloodline reached out, they've brought Sammy in, so maybe we've already kind of been over that. But that was kind of the whole tribal chief business to begin with, right? This is the family, this is the lineage, The Rock, the Roman Reigns, the all these this is all coming from the one family. And so it's just kind of weird, because for a longest time, this match has been the payoff. I mean, this is what we were expecting to see. I don't think solo Roman has enough legs on it to go to WrestleMania. I think the WrestleMania idea still should probably be a three-way battle between The Rock, Roman Reigns, and Cody Rhodes, and see just kind of how they get there. And we'll see. Things can change. We saw that last year. But this was supposed to be the payoff to the OG Bloodline against the original Bloodline against the new Bloodline. And by kind of adding in an extra character on each team, I'm just not sure if it's worth it. Now they want to go with tradition and say, well, there's 5 guys in a War Games match, so that's how you have to do it. It's just a little bit odd to me, because WWE isn't one that has to stick to their own rules. I mean, they'll tell you, here's a new rule for WWE, and then they'll take it away 2 weeks later when it doesn't work. I mean, we all remember Raw Underground. I mean, that just didn't last too long. So, and then there was the rule where the SmackDown competitors could show up on the Raw show, and the Raw show could show up on the SmackDown show, but it could only be 3 competitors every show. And then they found out pretty quickly, well, if we bring in a faction, then that takes away our 3. And if that faction has 4, then it's breaking up our own rules. So they got away with that pretty quickly. So I'm a little bit confused by it all. I am a huge fan of Bronson Reed, as much as you can be. And he's rather new to the main roster in the last couple of years anyway, and is getting his first big push. So I'm excited to see it. I think it adds a dynamic to them, but I feel like going outside the family was something I probably would have avoided here. And even, the way that it's been now, adding a fifth member, like I said, I probably would have avoided that altogether, but it has been good viewership for SmackDown and Raw, like finding out who this is going to be, to include, again, a SmackDown ending with Reigns calling Paul Heyman, not getting the answer. In fact, the number was disconnected. It leads you to all types of speculation and excitement and just wondering what's going to happen next there. And as I see it, and we will see what they do with it, but hopefully we do not get the answer Monday night. We still got until November 30th to kind of figure out who that fifth member would be. I would try to, somewhat put it on ice, and then kind of have that night. They do this often is, well, we couldn't find anybody, and we asked around, and maybe Seth Rollins still says he doesn't want to do it, and then have your surprise fifth teammate that night. Hopefully The Rock, right, and the Big Pop, and kind of play things out there. But again, with it being Bronson Reed, it's hard to imagine it being anybody but Seth Rollins. And Seth and Roman have their own history that throughout the Roman dominance period over the last couple of years before it was unthrown this past year by Cody Rhodes. I thought that that's money on the table. I mean, Seth and Roman, that's a natural great feud that you could tell and just keep going and replaying, and people would hardly tire of it. And they just never quite got to that. So, they've kind of had this, Seth doesn't respect, has this ultimate hatred for Roman for what he did back in the day and all that. I get that. But it's just weird that they've never put that feud back on the table at the height of the Roman Empire. And now it seems like they're going to maybe even further do it and team them up. So just very kind of strange to see very kind of strange to see the decisions they've made. But it's the same thing I've been saying all along with this, the bloodline, the story that's been dominating WWE programming for the last couple of years, is that it's not exactly how I would do it. But it's darn entertaining, right? And that's all you can ask for as a WWE fan, is to be entertained, to want to know what's next. And a lot of it, again, is with kind of the idea and the knowledge of how it ends. And that's what's kind of beautiful about this story, and has been somewhat the obstacle, is that that it has to end with Roman and The Rock and Cody some way at WrestleMania. And so, you're just kind of storytelling with Solo until you can get there. The only one drawback, though, that I would have with teaming Bronson Reed up with Solo again is, despite how much they've tried to put Solo over, and how much better I suppose his character is even coming off. I mean, I think he's done a little bit in the last couple of weeks to try to kind of overcome, I mean, just kind of the obviousness that he's not a primetime player, what they used to call the Authority used to tell Daniel Bryan, not an A+ player or whatever it is. He's just not. And again, they've done everything they can. They haven't pinned Cena, they haven't pinned Cody, they haven't pinned Roman, they haven't pinned everybody. But he just kind of feels like not quite the ultimate obstacle for Reigns to overcome that they try to make it. And again, I think adding Bronson Reed to that stable, he kind of outshines Solo. I mean, I would imagine if they, you got in a battle, he would probably win that battle. And of course, it's already been said that Jacob Fatu outshines Solo as well. So just a couple of different ways to look at what they're doing there. But the big expectation again is for Seth Rollins to be the fifth member there. Maybe they can skirt around that. Maybe Rollins and Bronson Reed finish whatever it is they have going on tomorrow night on Raw, because that was that was kind of the plan. And then Bronson Reed can nicely move on to the next feud. That's what I would prefer, by the way, for Bronson. I think it's time to move on. Like I said, wish he would probably have gotten over on Seth a little bit more than he did. They didn't have him win the Premium Live Event this match last time out. But Bronson Reed, even in kind of new attire, I thought looked, obviously looks very dangerous, looks as dangerous as he ever has. I thought it was a great time to kind of move off this feud, but it might last through and add to this bloodline business. So we'll kind of see what happens there. On the women's side of Survivor Series War Games kind of coming up, they've also kind of been working that match around, and that's a little bit harder to do because you don't have the natural faction with 4 or 5 quality, top tier roster members ready to battle another group. So in my mind, they've done it in a certain way, and it's been kind of messy. So they've basically done it through the tag team championships, where Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill have kind of gone at it with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. They've gone at it with Nia Jax and Tiffany. And then you kind of have Nia's natural foes that she's been going at with Bayley and Naomi. And so that looks like that's where they're headed. They kind of finished the Raw with a big battle with all those members in mind. Io Sky even coming out, and that's kind of where the question is I mean, they darn well. I've seen it floated out there that maybe they just do 4-on-4 for women for the women's Survivor Series War Games, and all the trouble they've gone to add a fifth member to the men's roster, and again, how it would just be so cleanly booked with just 4. That would just make me furious if they ultimately go to 4. But like I said, as it currently stands, it looks like it'll be a matchup between Belair, Cargill, Bayley, Naomi, and Io Sky, opposite Liv, Raquel, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae. That would be my guess at this point. And I don't want to look. I'm not a Nostradamus necessarily here. That's kind of what they're leading up to, or that it looks like. And that's just very interesting because instead of relying on a faction with long-term storytelling, like we said on the men's side, they've kind of just thrown all their championships together on the women's side and said, let's just have a big battle with everybody that's holding the belts. And so you kind of look down that line there. Bayley and Cargill are tag team champions. Liv's is the WWE Women's Champion on one brand. Nia's the WWE Women's Champion on the other. Tiffany Stratton obviously has the briefcase. And so it's just a lot of kind of titles involved there. Io Sky, Bayley, both recently also having a women's title. So I don't know. It feels a little bit messy. I've called for before, asking for more, let's say just, cross battles, I suppose, between feuds. I think sometimes in WWE you kind of get so stuck on your feud. It's just kind of, it feels like there's nobody else on the roster. And so, around Survivor Series times, they kind of do let that clutter start to happen a little bit. But to me, the women's side feels like just that, a little bit too much clutter. And they've got to find some sort of stakes to kind of put on this, because traditionally, obviously in Survivor Series, you have a Raw versus SmackDown. With this battle that I'm kind of tossing out there, it looks like they're going to do on the women's side. It's just kind of a combination of Raw and SmackDown women, and then you wonder, like, what does it mean to win that match? Which obviously on the men's side, you have family pride and all that at stake. And in this one, you just kind of wonder what it means. Would be an interesting time because there is so many moving parts for Tiffany maybe to turn on Nia. So we'll kind of have to wait to see there. Plenty. I mean, with all the titles and members at play, obviously it makes sense that there is a lot of chance for things to happen. So as we look forward to it, I think Survivor Series again, November 30th, War Games. You're starting to see a clearer picture of what you have breaking down for that. But all right, let's go ahead. We're getting about time to take our first stop here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket, WWE Week in Review show. I'll take a quick break. We'll see if Adam Carricker is ready to join us. If not, we can kind of more methodically go through both Raw and SmackDown, and we would start with SmackDown, the most recent, I should say, viewership that we've seen from WWE. So either a SmackDown review or Adam Carricker will join us coming up next year on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Jake Bockoven. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Wellman Plumbing at 402-434-2400 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-434-2400.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
If you're in Seward or Milford, listen up. Select Plumbing is now servicing your area with no trip charges from Lincoln. Select Plumbing works on a variety of issues for your home and business, including general plumbing, water heaters, faucet and fixture repair, underground sewer and water repairs, backflow testing, and more. Keep your property free from leaks and other issues. Call today for a free estimate, 402-560-6197. It's not just Lincoln, Waverly, and the surrounding area anymore. It's also Seward and Milford with no trip charges. Contact Select Plumbing to inquire at 402-560-6197.
Your home is your empire. Protect it with Empire Fence. Get a free instant quote with the online estimating tool at empire-fence.com. See an upfront estimate with no hidden fees. An Empire Fence can provide privacy and improve the appearance of your home. Keep kids and pets in or out of your yard. Increase security and add value to your property. Visit empire-fence.com now to view the stylish and maintenance-free possibilities for your home and get a free instant online quote. Let Empire Fence protect your empire.
Load up on meat and more this fall at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese at 84th and Havelock. This week's special through November 12th is $2 off all crackers, $2 off on grind, $3 off on salami, and buy one, get one free on stew beef. Limit of 2. Locations at 84th and Havelock, 30th and Yankee Hill, and now 85th and Highway 2 in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
You're counting on your team to win, so why not prove it? By placing your bets at Warhorse Sportsbook. Their win is your win. Put your money where your mouth is on nearly every sporting event. Use the Warhorse app to check odds and build your bets before placing your wagers in person at Warhorse Casino, including live in-game betting. No bets, no glory. Wagers may only be placed on Nebraska-based teams when played outside the state of Nebraska. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
Hi, it's
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We are back here on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket. Our WWE Week in Review show is just talking about some of the big matches. We're probably going to see the War Games matches that we'll see at Survivor Series. We'll jump back into kind of what we saw at SmackDown and Raw to close out this show. But right now, I want to welcome my guest, Mr. Adam Carricker, who has a show here on 93.7 The Ticket, the Adam Carricker Show, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 12 to noon. One of the best shows here on The Ticket and in Lincoln, so don't miss that. But as many of you who maybe have heard the show might have seen, he actually is a wrestling fan, so we got to bring him on here. And Adam, I don't know if you have, if you can see the Starter Heyman Jewelers video stream in front of you, but I chose a certain wrestling photo to put up here on the screen of you.
Oh, well, I cannot see it, but I don't have to imagine very hard what it is. Why are you staring at my baby oiled up body, Jake? That's a little weird.
See, there you go. You knew exactly which one it is. Because very quickly, can you give a brief history? I mean, you've done some wrestling radio in the past in DC, correct?
Yeah, so I had a show called Fourth and Pain. My co-host was Chuck Carroll. He was actually in the wrestling business for a while, but it was Fourth and Pain. It was actually half Washington Redskins football and then half pro wrestling. And so Fourth and Pain was the perfect name. But yeah, we talked a lot of of pro wrestling. It's interesting about that picture. I lost a bet to Goldberg when Nebraska lost to Georgia in the Gator Bowl 15 years ago. So that's how old that photo is. But my poor daughter, Addison, last year, 7th grade, middle school, back where we lived, one day her teacher somehow saw that photo, put it like on the overhead. I don't even know if they use overheads anymore, but put it on the screen for the whole class to see, and then goes, "Addison, is this your dad?" She has been scarred ever since that thing was put up in front of the whole class.
Yeah, that's not good. At least, I mean, you put on everything. I mean, you're ready to go. Like you said, you even kind of oiled up for the photo. So you should have done the bet the year afterwards. Nebraska beat Georgia in the bowl game, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, he ducked me, or I don't remember what happened. And I didn't just put on a little baby oil. I just had, so what you can't see in that photo is I had a knee brace on. We cut it off just above the knee brace to show my lower quad, but I hadn't worked out in 5 weeks, and I was uber concerned that I hadn't worked out in 5 weeks. And Chuck was like, "Hey man, just throw in a bunch of baby oil. Wrestlers do it to make their muscles pop." And so I was like, "Man, I ain't worked out in 5 weeks. I'm lathering this baby up." And that was the unfortunate product that you got as a result.
Well, you didn't have any long hair, because I know the other thing they do is just drench their hair in water before they come out. I don't know why, but it looks better. So I don't know. There's certain things that in wrestling business, little secrets there. But I did also want to ask you, I know you've mentioned before, was there a time where you were close to thinking about trying to become a wrestler?
Yeah, so it was kind of on my radar, so to speak. And with the whole Fourth and Pain show, you get if you listen to the Adam Carricker show, you're sitting right there every day. I kind of do my thing, and I'll go off, and I come over prepared, and then I go off script half the time, and then I try to follow the other half. But with the pro wrestling show that Chuck and I were doing, we'd flat out cut promos on each other. We were ruthless at times too. There was a couple of times we didn't talk to each other for a while. But we were pretty ruthless. Like, we were WWE style promo talking about, mostly wrestling, but also some Redskins football. It's supposed to be 50-50. And so there was a couple of people that I knew that were connected to the WWE that heard about it. Well, they knew of the show, and they actually reached out, and they had me do like a Skype interview. And they wanted, basically a regular interview, but then they wanted me to cut a promo. And so I cut a promo on Vince and whatnot, and he ended up falling out of the chair because he was laughing so hard. And so afterwards, they called me later, and they offered me, and they said, "You are as advertised." And I assumed that meant the promo. They liked it. I turned him down because at the time, this was all a while ago, I wasn't officially retired from the NFL. So I was trying to make a comeback, obviously failed at that. But they called me about a week later, and they were doing that whole Tough Enough thing. They had like Mandy Rose and all that on that Tough Enough. I was supposed to be on that. They wanted me to do that, the show. Well, that's what they actually offered me to do, and I said no. They wanted me to do that. Then they said, "Hey, when you're done with the NFL, whenever that is, you can come down here, come to Orlando and train with us at their NXT, their training facility for the wrestlers that they're training." So my wife actually said, "Yes, go do it." And I've known enough wrestlers, like I've known Goldberg, and I interviewed Roman Reigns way back in the day when he was still in the Shield. And both those guys are former football players, obviously high elite level wrestlers. And they both told me the same thing when I asked them what's harder, football or wrestling. They both said wrestling, and they said there's no off season. And I had watched enough of Stone Cold's podcast at the time to know that, he'd been divorced 3 times, and you're on the road 300 plus days a year as a wrestler. I don't think it's as bad now, and then the first thing he ever saw his daughter do, she was 15 years old, and he never saw her do anything up until then. And so all that kind of factored into me saying, my exact words to her were, "I don't think you know what you're telling me to go do." And I meant that much nicer than it sounded. But anyways, ended up not doing it. It's always one of those things where it would have been cool, but I've never really regretted it because I know enough to know I would have missed being a part of my kids' lives and being around my wife and family.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Still, maybe we could set up a table or something. You can choke slam me through it. We could get a little charity event going through it or something. But anyways, let's get into some of the wrestling after, those are great stories. But I did want to ask you kind of about what's going on now, because there's plenty to dissect here. What are just kind of your thoughts on the Bloodline chapter? Of course, it's now the OG Bloodline kind of against the new Bloodline. All of this coming off the WrestleMania main event last year. Has it been interesting enough for you to kind of stay tuned into it? And what do you think about the latest edition, Bronson Reed now joining the Bloodline for Survivor Series?
So, okay. This was, I don't want to say this was fairly predictable, but like so WrestleMania was phenomenal. The build to WrestleMania, the audible that they called, Rock turning heel, Final Boss was all phenomenal. But I kind of stopped tuning in for a while. Number one, the family and I were moving, so that took a lot of time. But it was kind of like, all right, The Rock was gone off TV. Roman was gone off TV. I was supposed to buy into Solo as the tribal chief. And I'm not familiar with Tama Tonga and a lot of these other guys that started popping up. I know enough about their heritage, their lineage. I get the connection. I know where they came from. I just wasn't interested. And then I tuned in at SummerSlam. Why? Because Roman was supposed to come back, and he did. And I've kind of tuned in sporadically since. But up until Bronson Reed, it's been all too predictable. You've got Solo and everyone over here on this side of the bloodline, and then you got Roman, and now he's the face, and then you've got the Usos reuniting with Roman, and then Sammy was a little bit of a swerve, but not a gigantic shocker. You know, up until Bronson Reed, it's exciting, it's fun to watch, but it's a little too predictable, so I don't find myself watching the show. I even told you I don't watch the shows. I find myself just going on Twitter once a week. All right, there's that clip, and there's that clip, and I spend 5 minutes, and I'm all caught up, and I call it good until The Rock comes back. I tuned in for Bad Blood because I had a feeling, along with a lot of other people, he was going to be there. He didn't do a whole lot, but furthered the storyline, gave you a little tease, slit in the throat, all that good stuff, held up the 3 for some reason. What's that mean? Who knows? But I'll tune in a little bit more as WrestleMania starts to get closer and things of that nature. But I was happy to see the Bronson Reed edition because it wasn't the first thing that was just insanely easy to predict and call.
Yeah, I like that, and I think Bronson Reed's been looking very destructive as of late. Let me ask you though, as you're kind of breaking down there, it's interesting, what kind of bring wrestling fans back in, and so I got a few questions for you, and I don't know which one to start with. I'll start with this one. So the Mike Tyson fight happened. I don't know if you saw the match or the post-match interview where Mike Tyson said he wants a shot at Logan Paul, and Logan Paul says and that he beat him basically in nicer in worse terms, I should say. Is there a chance we're going to see Mike Tyson return to the WWE ring? I mean, that felt more WWE than boxing to me.
That's a great take on that. That hadn't occurred to me because when Mike said that, I was like, "Oh God, be done." What you just did is insanely impressive, not aesthetically pleasing to watch, but insanely impressive at his age. And I know a lot of people think it was staged, and maybe it was. I have my doubts. But when he said that to Logan, I was like, no, I'm not interested in this. But if it were to be in some sort of a WWE ring type fashion, all right, that had occurred to me. I like that twist. I like that swerve. All of a sudden, I'm a little bit more interested now. I like that.
See, I don't know. It might just be because I only know Logan Paul from WWE. I'm not cut up on his YouTube stuff or how he got famous or anything. But that's immediately what I thought. I mean, I thought that would definitely draw eyeballs. But my point in asking these series of questions is there's a lot of chances to draw eyeballs here in the immediate future. The John Cena retirement tour, which is supposed to be in 2025, would that draw you back to maybe weekly television if he's on every week?
Oh, man. Well, real quick on the Logan Paul thing, did you watch when he boxed Floyd Mayweather a bunch of years ago?
Oh, man, I think I might have missed that. I briefly remember that happening, but I don't think I've seen too much of it. Yeah,
it was a few years ago. So he's like a boxer, him and his brother Jake, as you know, but Logan's like a boxer too. I don't know if I don't know who's better, him or Jake, but I remember watching that, and he lasted the whole time, but I digress. What was your original question? Sorry, I got distracted.
Oh, you're all right. It's just the John Cena retirement tour.
Oh, yeah.
Would that be enough to kind of draw you back up? Were you a big Cena fan, or was that a little past your prime of wrestling watching, I suppose?
I loved the Doctor of Thugonomics. Loved it. And then when he got drafted to Raw, because for some reason I couldn't watch SmackDown at the time. I don't remember. I don't think it was on UPN still. For whatever reason, I couldn't watch SmackDown. And when he was drafted over to Raw, I was so excited. I think it was like '05. And that was literally the time when he dropped the Doctor of Thugonomics thing. And I was like, oh, God, week after week, I have to watch this. I was not a fan of the little children bowl full of Fruity Pebbles, John Cena. But I understand the business behind it. Drawing in a younger crowd, making tons of money, getting the F out. And I know that was a little bit before all that, going from WWF to WWE. But he did exactly what he was asked to do. He was kind of handed a bowl of crap. Like, to you and me, he's not that appealing. To kids, he was phenomenal in that stage. But week after week, I'd watch him walk into an arena, get booed, and by the time he was done with the mic in his hand, they'd be cheering him. So I love the skill. I love what he brings. He's an all-time great, but I did not enjoy that era under him because of what he was asked to do. And as far as the John Cena retirement tour, I'll tune in when he first comes back. I'll tune in sporadically, but I'm not going to be like tuning in week after week, with all due respect, like I will be anytime I know The Rock's going to be on TV.
Yeah, I know The Rock's your guy, but to kind of follow that up too, once Survivor Series hits, it'll be 1 year since CM Punk's return after 10 years to the company. I kind of thought that his return would have more legs. Of course, now he's had the injury and then the year-long fight with Drew McIntyre, which I think was good at times, repetitive at others. But are you a little underwhelmed by CM Punk's return so far?
I mean, I think so, but I think it's hard when you miss. What did he miss? 4 months, 3 months because of the injury. Now, at some point, you got to recognize the guy gets hurt every time he turns over a notebook piece of paper. Like, oh my gosh. But it's been a little bit underwhelming. The injury definitely played a role in that. I love Drew McIntyre as much as anybody. In all fairness, I think Drew McIntyre is just a notch below, like just a half of a hair of a notch below the level of superstar I would have stuck CM Punk with right out the gate. Like, it was pretty obvious he was going to do something with Rollins. That was like perfect. And then obviously the injury threw it off. Rollins then ends up getting hurt, makes it through WrestleMania, and it kind of throws everything off and out of whack. So in all fairness, I thought the feud with McIntyre was as good as it possibly could have been between those two. Those two couldn't have done much more with it.
Yeah, and I mean they got plenty of chances. I think they had like 7 or 8 matches. Another question I wanted to ask you is about your friend Goldberg. Of course, I think it might have been months or at least weeks ago now, they kind of teased a matchup with Gunther, and there's long been talk about Goldberg's retirement match. Would this be a situation where you think you try to put Gunther over? Do you think Goldberg comes back and maybe has a little run before his final match?
Well, if Gunther's the last match, the right thing to do is the guy going out, does the honors, so to speak. And I think Goldberg would do that for a young and up-and-coming guy. I know he's the champ right now. It's kind of stupid to say young and up-and-coming, but I think he's just going to continue to build. I'm not the biggest Gunther guy in the world, to be honest with you, but he's just going to keep building. He carries himself like a champion, so I'll give him that. If it's not his final match, I would think that they'd want to build to that final match, and you can't lose on the way to the final match. My gut tells me he's got one match left in him in the WWE. If it's Gunther, I think he puts Gunther over. Yeah,
that'll be entertaining one way or the other. And like I said, just all these names that are kind of on deck. Not even to mention, and I'll ask you quickly about this because the women did add a U.S. title to the picture, so a mid-card title, if you will, which I think will kind of help the roster out. Do you think that the women's roster as is carrying on well, or do they miss Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and now with Rhea Ripley out?
They miss those three.
Yeah.
I mean, Charlotte's an all-time great. Becky's an all-time great. Rhea's going to be an all-time great. Rhea was doing really, really well, and I like the storyline that was going on with Dominic and Liv, and I do think Liv's doing a really good job, and I think the twist with Dominic was really good. And I think there's a lot of good aspects to it. They need more depth, and they need more of those types of stars, and they need more things like that amongst the women. And when you're missing 2-3 top stars like that, you're going to be short a little bit of the things that I just mentioned they need more of. So hopefully they get them back sooner rather than later. I know Becky's situation is a little bit different, but hopefully they get them back sooner than later, because seriously, those are like 2 or 3 of the greatest of all time right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of funny because I wouldn't say, well, I love the Shield, but my favorite member of the Shield, it was Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, and then finally Roman Reigns. And of course, Roman kind of took over the company. And I, for the longest time, just never was really into as much his storylines until he had leukemia and had to sit out for a while. And then I realized how much WWE needed him. And that's when I really became a lot bigger of a Roman Reigns fan, is because, like, when he came back, it was just instantly a lot more entertaining. And so, I mean, there are women out there, that are like that. And I think Charlotte Flair is definitely one of those. Becky Lynch, I think, has to, try to find that magic that she had at one point in time. She's kind of changed her character around here a little bit, but oftentimes some time off can be exactly what a wrestler needs to kind of get that spark going up again.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Sometimes, absence, when you're gone, the heart grows fonder. I don't know. Sometimes you don't realize what you have when you have it all the time. It's funny because now Cena comes back to thunderous ovations when he used to come out to thunderous boos week after week. So sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder. It's interesting with Roman. I remember when we interviewed him on Fourth and Pain. I forget what I asked him, but something about he envisioned himself being the guy one day, and I didn't say anything to him. And it's going to sound stupid now, but I remember thinking to myself, like, in my mind, he was number 3 in the Shield. It was Ambrose, then it was Rollins, and then it was Roman. Roman was like the guy that hardly ever talked or whatever in my mind. But he goes, I envision myself being the guy one day and carrying this company. And, at the time I was just going, okay, well, whatever, dude. Now I look like, okay, whatever, dude. Like, how dumb are you to miss that? But I think the worst thing to happen to Roman was Vince. The suffer and succotash and all the stupid stuff he had him do. Once he could just kind of do what was more relatable to people and do things that make more sense to him, he could shine through. Because I'm like, Roman, even when people were booing him out of the building, I'm like, he's really good. Just this stupid crap that he has to do is killing his character. Like, he's actually really freaking good if Vince would just get out of the way. And I know you're not supposed to utter Vince's name now, I guess. I've uttered it like 15 times. Vince. But it's kind of one of those things where once he was out of the way, now you can see what he's really like, and now he's found his aura, and his true talent and ability is shown through.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Final question for you. I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight, as it's getting a little bit late. But I did, now that you mentioned McMahon, there's been a lot of talk about the Triple H era and how he's kind of booked things and where the company's going. And, I'm kind of jumping over here a little bit from place to place, but, with Cody Rhodes being on College Game Day here and Sheamus a couple weeks ago, obviously the connection to Pat McAfee. But I don't, when I do that as a college football fan and as a wrestling fan, I just have to sit there and wonder. I was like, does the average person know who Sheamus is? I don't think so. Does the average person know who Cody Rhodes is? I know he's over, but I don't know if he's at that point. Do you think that wrestling could ever get back to where it was, to where their stars were just Hollywood stars, not kind of wrestling stars?
I absolutely think so. I mean, you think back to Hogan, and you think back, I remember Warrior going on Arsenio Hall and giving like the worst interview ever, but he was on the show, if you've ever seen that interview. And then Austin and Rock, they were transcended at the time. Obviously, Rock is still transcended with what he's doing, even at higher levels than before. I absolutely think they can. WWE is bigger. They've been more profitable for a long time, even when their product wasn't good. Hence, AEW was formed. But they are bigger, and they're better, and they're more profitable than they've ever been. And they're becoming more mainstream. Like, they're an icon. You can click on Peacock anytime you go on, and they got people going on to ESPN, and they even discuss certain things on ESPN every once in a while. It's like they are just, I feel like they're as close as they've ever been to being as mainstream consistently as they've ever been.
He's Adam Carricker. He has a show again, the Adam Carricker Show, from 12 to 1 every day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, I should say, on 93.7 The Ticket. Adam, thanks again for joining us. We'll have to get you on again sometime.
Sounds good, man. Anytime, and I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, there he is. There goes Adam Carricker. Thanks again for joining us there. All right, let's go ahead and take our final break. When we come back, I'll quickly review some of the matches that we saw here on Raw and SmackDown. That's coming next year on 93.7 The Ticket. This is Nuclear Heat.
Here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
The electrical workers of Local Union 265 are now hiring licensed journeyman electricians from $32.50 to $42.50 per hour with paid benefits. And if you're looking for a new career, they're hiring apprentices at $19.50 per hour with paid benefits. Call the office at 402-423-4497 to apply. Start your electrical career today. The Mill Coffee and Tea, formerly with only 4 Lincoln locations, now 5 Lincoln locations. That's 25% more locations than there used to be. Can you even imagine a world where there's only 4 Lincoln Mill locations? That feels like ages ago. We were all so young then. The Mill on 11th, located right alongside the 93.7 The Ticket Studios on O Street. Attention students and anyone else looking for a great deal. Sun Valley Lanes and Games has the ultimate weeknight special. For just $15.95, enjoy unlimited bowling, lucky putt mini golf, and laser tag. Flash your college ID at check-in to receive $2 off your admission. It's the perfect way to unwind Sunday through Thursday nights. Check out sunvalleylanes.com for hours and availability. Sun Valley Lanes and Games, located at 321 Victory Lane.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete. Sun Valley.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Wellman Plumbing at 402-434-2400 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-434-2400.
Hi everyone, Kendall Warnock with A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. If you're looking for an automotive repair facility you can genuinely trust, we would be grateful for the opportunity to earn your business repairing your vehicle. We have ASE master technicians and qualified to work on a variety of vehicles from Hondas to Porsches, Jaguars to Toyotas, and Chevrolets to Fords. We pride ourselves on customer service and relationships, and we would be grateful for the opportunity to serve you. Give us a call at 402-477-4660. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
The Link Grill, Draft, and Crafts is your spot in Southeast Lincoln for great food and drink. They're serving new menu items and a killer craft cocktail menu with your favorite draft beers. You'll love their pizza and new entree options. It's a great place to watch any live events, and they have music bingo every month. They have an aggressive loyalty program that rewards fans with 7% back on all purchases. Home of the Nebraska Power Hour every night from 8 to 9 p.m. Order online at thelnkgrill.com or stop in at 84th and Highway 2 today.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, we got one final segment here on Nuclear Heat. Thanks again for Adam Carricker for joining us as we had a nice interview there. Once again, Augie Pena out today, but he'll be back with me next week. So we'll quickly go through SmackDown and Raw here as we wrap up the show, mostly just to kind of refresh your memory as we get into, Raw starting tomorrow night. But let's start with SmackDown, as that's most recently in our minds. Cody Rhodes opened up the show with a promo with calling for Kevin Owens. Nick Aldis comes out and says that no, Kevin Owens is not allowed. Of course, he pile drived Randy Orton, and Randy Orton is now out indefinitely. So they're looking for a way to get that going. Both Rhodes and Aldis made a lot of sense from their own position, talking about Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens later had a looked like a cell phone type of interview that he did himself, saying that he was going to show up next week. So I just thought it was a good way to kind of open it up and continue the storyline. And again, it was good that both sides had pretty good point. But Cody Rhodes wants to get his hands on Kevin Owens, so much so that he's willing to go to his house if he needs to. But he wants to be able to do this in a WWE ring. I thought that was kind of the lasting impression I got from that. The next couple matches were interesting because they highlighted some folks that don't get a whole lot of highlighting usually. The first was a triple threat U.S. title tournament match between B-Fab, Bayley, and Candice LeRae. Once again, kind of B-Fab's first solo push, if you'll give it that, was given a lot of time in the ring. But ultimately, Bayley gets the win. She would be a very good U.S. title inaugural winner, so maybe even the favorite at this point. She did roll up B-Fab for the win. Candice LeRae was able to look good as well. She almost got a pin out of the Tower of Doom there in the corner. So that was quite impressive. And again, Candice LeRae to me kind of has gone from this lost person in my mind that I didn't have a whole lot of interest in to somebody that's kind of starting to intrigue me. And I want to see her character develop. And I thought this match did that a little bit as well. B-Fab even got an extra time on TV with a promo in the back, kind of feuding with Chelsea Green and Piper Niven after the match as well. So we'll kind of see if she continues to get a little bit of a singles push. The next match was LA Knight's U.S. Open Challenge. Santos Escobar was trying to answer the challenge, but instead, because that match has already happened before, LA Knight wanted Berto. Berto got a lot of offense in, but the BFT gives Knight the win. That was interesting. But then, of course, the surprise there was the return of Shinsuke Nakamura, a different looking Shinsuke Nakamura, very dark. Now, I will say this. There are a lot, and they've got, it's kind of silly, the details in wrestling, sometimes even the attire. Shinsuke looked very scary, kind of like a Sting character type. The problem is a lot of people were wearing black throughout this program, throughout Raw. And yes, it's a way to make your kind of villains look more villainous, to kind of dark them out. I mean, Bronson Reed was wearing all dark, but like, it's just kind of like everybody. I think the Street Profits were wearing dark. And when I say dark, I mean all black. I think it was especially notable in Raw, where it's like Gunther and Damian Priest, and then Damage Control and Pure Fusion Collective. And so that's just one note that I will say, that if you want a villainous character that looks more scary with all dark, don't have everybody wear all black all the time. But I'm excited to see Shinsuke come back. That should be a good feud. Only problematic in that Shinsuke has not won a feud in so long. A change of character can only do so much. If you lose right away to LA Knight, I don't know if that's going to be able to put him over quite enough. LA Knight, meanwhile, still probably needs a formidable character in his U.S. title defense. And so I'm glad that they've kind of got that set up, but unfortunately, it's probably going to stop somebody in their tracks there. We're not going to go through too much of the Bloodline stuff. Like we know, Bronson Reed shows up and helps the Bloodline, the OG Bloodline, looking for their next member. Jay says, make the call. We already kind of went through the call to Paul Heyman did not pay off at the end of the night. Tag team titles, we did have Street Profits against Motor City Machine Guns. Tommaso Ciampa actually caused a disqualification by attacking the Street Profits. Ciampa pushed Johnny Gargano over, so you've kind of got, are they going to break up type of feeling there? Dawkins was not happy with the way the match ended, so he decked Shelley. So you've kind of got 3 tag teams, maybe 2 tag teams and 1 tag team splitting up, that will probably go battle here in the next couple of weeks. And then the women's championship match between Nia Jax and Naomi was a great match. A lot of near falls. Naomi put on a heck of a performance, but ultimately, to kind of set up Survivor Series and War Games, we just had a whole bunch of interference. Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan were taken out in the back by they took out Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. So you knew that the good girls, I suppose, weren't going to come in and help. Tiffany Stratton shows up, but Bayley neutralizes her. Candice LeRae takes out Bayley. This allows Jax to finish off Naomi with an Annihilator. So kind of a fitting way to end that match. That, of course, coming off the Raw main event was the Women's Tag Team Championship. And I'll jump to Raw here real quick. Was Belair and Cargill against Morgan and Rodriguez earlier in the week. In that match, you had interference from Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, countered by Naomi and even Io Sky. So again, you're just putting a lot setting up a lot of your feuds into the Survivor Series War Games setup, which is a bit cluttered, but hopefully they're able to kind of clear that out a little bit more. The one thing I didn't like about the Women's Tag Team Championship from Raw was that Liv Morgan took the pin. And that's no surprise if you listen to me. I hate champions taking the pin, especially where she's coming off, looking for her next challenger outside of Rhea Ripley. Just a bonehead decision. I don't know how that gets crossed. I suppose they're trying to protect Raquel Rodriguez as her muscle, but I'm not sure if the juice is worth the squeeze there. Big night on Raw, by the way, for my man Ludwig Kaiser, who had an opportunity at Damian Priest after Damian Priest made Gunther kind of second guess himself. Gunther, of course, coming after that loss where he lost to Cody. That is one thing I do have a little bit of a problem with too, is Gunther. They're kind of going with the story with where he's doubting himself, and maybe it ultimately has him, defeat Damian Priest. But I like a confident Gunther, and I didn't like him getting pinned. And now they're they're furthering this storyline. Now he does have possibly dissension with Ludwig Kaiser. We'll kind of see going with his character as well. But to me, a strong Gunther and a strong champion, going back to Liv Morgan, is a much better champion than champions getting pinned and questioning themselves. So a little bit of booking I think they could have worked out there. The only other thing worth noting from Raw, I believe, you got Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods still having their battles, but I thought the Karrion Kross Miz stuff was pretty good. He threatened to break Miz's legs. They come out to the ring. Miz looks like he's at odds, I suppose, with Karrion Kross and his group. The Wyatt Six shows up, and the Miz turns on the Wyatt Six and joins Karrion Kross in the final testament. And they lay out the Wyatt Six. Uncle Howdy laughing off the beatdown there at the end. Did not like that either. I mean, the Wyatt Six have been through one feud. They do not need to get beat down this quickly. Even though they might ultimately win this feud, still don't necessarily like the look for a group that's supposed to be kind of have their superpowers, right? You have to go through wrestling that way. But that'll wrap it up for Nuclear Heat. Again, we'll be back next Sunday here on 93.7 The Ticket. Thanks for joining us.